The Great Hall of the Galaxy Council was the largest room had ever seen. It stretched in every direction like a small city. Thousands of seats rose up in circles, each one filled with an alien delegate from a different world. The ceiling was made of clear glass, and through it could see the purple and gold colors of a distant nebula. It was beautiful, but did not feel any beauty in this moment. He felt only the cold stares of 1,000 alien eyes looking down at him. Was the human ambassador. He was 42 years old with short black hair and tired eyes. He had spent 15 years learning alien languages and customs. He had trained his whole life for this moment. Today, humanity would finally ask to join the Galaxy Council. Today, humans would take their place among the stars. Or so he had hoped. The council leader was a tall creature named. He had skin, 4 arms, and eyes that glowed with soft blue light. Sat on the highest seat, looking down at like a king looking at an insect. When spoke, his voice echoed through the entire hall. "The human ambassador may now speak," said. There was no warmth in his voice. There was no welcome. Took a deep breath. He looked at the small group of humans standing behind him. Captain stood closest. She was a naval officer, strong and calm, with her dark hair pulled back tight. Beside her stood Doctor, the mission's chief medical officer. His hands were shaking slightly, but his face showed no fear. There were 12 humans in total, 12 humans in a room of 10,000 aliens. Stepped forward to the speaking platform. His footsteps echoed in the silence. "Honored members of the Galaxy Council," began. His voice was steady. "I come before you today as a representative of Earth and all human beings. For 200 years, humanity has traveled among the stars. We have built colonies. We have traded with your worlds. We have followed your laws and respected your customs. Today, I humbly request that humanity be granted full membership in the Galaxy Council." For a moment there was silence. Then the laughter started. It began somewhere in the upper seats. A wet, gurgling sound that might have been a chuckle. Then more joined in. Soon, the entire hall was filled with alien laughter. Some delegates pointed at. Others shook their heads in disbelief. The sound washed over like a wave of cold water. Did not move. He kept his face calm, even as his heart broke inside his chest. A delegate from the lower seat stood up. He was a short creature covered in green scales, with a mouth full of sharp teeth. His name was, and he represented one of the oldest species in the galaxy. "Humans," said, his voice dripping with scorn. "You want humans to join the council. These soft, pink creatures who live for barely 100 years. These beings who cannot even breathe underwater or survive in the cold of space. What could they possibly offer us?" More laughter filled the hall. Another delegate rose. She was tall and thin, with skin like polished silver. Her name was, and her species had been part of the council for 10,000 years. "I have visited Earth," said. "It is a dirty planet. The humans fight among themselves constantly. They destroy their own environment. They are violent and primitive. Giving them council membership would be like giving a seat to wild animals." The crowd cheered at her words. Some delegates stamped their feet in approval. Felt step up beside him. Her jaw was tight with anger, but she said nothing. They had been warned this might happen. They had been told that many species looked down on humans, but hearing it with their own ears was different. It hurt in ways had not expected. A third delegate stood. This one was massive, with thick hide and tusks that curved from his jaw. His name was, and his species was known throughout the galaxy as great warriors. "Humans are weak," declared. "I have seen them up close. They break easily. They tire quickly. A single child could defeat 10 human soldiers. Why should we allow weaklings into our council?" The hall erupted in agreement. Delegates shouted insults. They called humans soft skins and short lifers and dirt dwellers. Each word was like a knife cutting into his pride. Council leader raised one of his 4 hands. The crowd slowly fell silent. "Ambassador," said, his glowing eyes fixed on the human. "You have heard the concerns of the council. Your species is young. Your technology is limited. You are short. Your bodies are fragile. In the long history of this council, we have never admitted a species so underdeveloped. Felt his hands form into fists at his sides. He forced himself to relax them. With respect, council leader said, humanity has much to offer. We are quick learners. We are creative. We work hard. We have. You have nothing, interrupted. Nothing that the council needs. Nothing that we cannot find elsewhere. Fell silent. He could feel the eyes of every delegate upon him. He could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on his shoulders. Looked around the hall. Let us vote, he said. All those in favor of granting humanity membership in the Galaxy Council, raise your hands or appendages. Looked around desperately. Not a single hand was raised, not a single tentacle or claw or wing. The hall was still and silent. All those against continued. The hall exploded with movement. Thousands of hands and claws and tentacles shot into the air. The vote was not close. It was not even a contest. Every single delegate voted against humanity. Nodded slowly. The vote is complete. Humanity is membership in the Galaxy Council. You may leave now, Ambassador. The laughter started again. It was louder this time. Some delegates threw small objects at the human group. A piece of fruit hit Doctor on the shoulder. He flinched but did not cry out. Stood frozen. 15 years of work, 15 years of hope, all of it destroyed in a matter of minutes. Captain touched his arm gently. Ambassador, she whispered, we should go. Shook his head. No, he said quietly, not yet. He looked up his voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. Council leader said, before we leave, I have one question. What would it take? What would humanity need to do to prove our worth? The laughter slowly died down. Delegates looked at each other in confusion. No rejected species had ever asked such a question before, most simply left in shame. Leaned forward in his seat. A cold smile spread across his face. Prove your worth, repeated. Very well, human, show us something. Show us one thing that makes humanity special. One thing that proves you are more than frightened animals clinging to a small blue rock. If you can do that, perhaps we will listen. The crowd laughed again but did not hear them. He was looking at Captain. She met his eyes and nodded slowly. Then she reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small silver chip. Turned back to face the council. For the first time since entering the hall, he smiled. Council leader, he said, I believe we have something to show you. The laughter in the great hall began to fade. Delegates looked at each other with confused expressions. What was this human doing? Why was he smiling? He had just been rejected by every species in the galaxy. He should be running away in shame. Instead, he stood there with a strange look on his face, and the woman beside him held a small silver chip in her hand. Council leader narrowed his glowing blue eyes. He did not like surprises. In his 300 years of leading the council, no rejected species had ever acted this way. What is that? Demanded, pointing one of his 4 arms at the chip. What do you have there? Captain stepped forward. She was shorter than, but she carried herself like someone much larger. Her back was straight. Her eyes were steady. She did not look afraid of the thousands of aliens staring down at her. This is a video file, said. Her voice was clear and strong. It contains footage from an incident that happened 6 months ago, an incident that the Galaxy Council has tried very hard to forget. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The green-scaled alien who had mocked humans earlier stood up quickly. This is not proper, he shouted. The humans have been rejected. They must leave immediately. They cannot just. Let them speak, a quiet voice interrupted. Everyone turned to look. The voice had come from the far side of the hall where the oldest species sat. An ancient creature rose slowly from her seat. She was small and wrinkled, with pale blue skin and eyes that held the wisdom of 10,000 years. Her name was Elder, and she was the oldest living member of the council. When she spoke, others listened. "Let them speak," Elder repeated. "I wish to see what the humans have brought." Hesitated. He clearly did not want to allow this, but Elder had more respect in this hall than anyone else. Going against her wishes would make him look weak. "Very well," said through gritted teeth. "Show us your video, human, but I warn you, if this is some kind of trick, you will regret it." Nodded, she walked toward the center of the hall, where a large display screen hung from the ceiling. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Every eye in the room followed her. Watched her go. His heart was beating fast, but he kept his face calm. They had planned for this moment. They had hoped it would not be necessary. But when the council rejected them so completely, knew they had no other choice. Reached the display console. She inserted the silver chip into the slot. The screen flickered to life, casting blue light across the hall. "What you are about to see," announced, "happened near the system on the edge of council space. The council has classified this information. They do not want their citizens to know what happened, but we believe the truth should be heard." The silver-skinned alien stood up angrily. "This is outrageous. Whatever footage you have is surely fake. Humans are known liars." "The footage is real," replied calmly. "It was recorded by council monitoring stations. You can verify its authenticity with your own systems." Opened her mouth to argue more, but raised a hand to silence her. His expression had changed. There was something new in his glowing eyes. It might have been fear. "Start the video," said quietly. Pressed a button. The screen changed, showing the darkness of space. Stars glittered in the distance. Then a ship came into view. It was a massive vessel, old and damaged. Smoke poured from several sections. Warning lights flashed red along its hull. "This is the colony transport ship Harmony's Dream," explained. 6 months ago, it was carrying over 3,000 passengers from the colonies. Most were civilians, families, children, elderly. The ship's engine failed during a routine journey and it drifted off course. The video showed the ship moving slowly through space. Then the view pulled back and the audience gasped. The ship was heading directly toward a massive orange star. The star was unstable. Huge flames shot out from its surface. It was a dying star, one that could explode at any moment. "The ship had no way to change direction," continued. "Its engine was dead. Its communication systems were damaged. The passengers sent out distress signals, but they were far from any help." The massive tusked alien leaned forward in his seat. "I remember this incident," he said slowly. "The colonies reported a missing transport ship. We assumed it was destroyed." "It nearly was," said. "The ship was pulled toward the dying star by gravity. In less than 12 hours, it would have been burned to ash. 3,000 passengers would have died." The hall was completely silent now. No one was laughing. No one was throwing objects. Every delegate watched the screen with growing interest. "But something happened," said. "Something the council never expected." The video changed. A new ship appeared on screen. It was smaller than the transport, sleek and fast. Human letters were painted on its side. "Earth Naval Vessel Morning Light." "That is a human ship," said, speaking up. "The Morning Light was on a scientific mission in the region. They picked up the distress signal from Harmony's Dream." Made a scoffing sound. "So what? Your ship reported the emergency to the council. That is nothing special." "No," said. "Our ship did not report to the council. There was no time. The Morning Light had 12 hours to save 3,000 lives. Calling for council help would have taken at least 2 days." The video showed the human ship moving closer to the transport. The dying star glowed angrily in the background, growing larger with each passing minute. "The captain of the Morning Light was a woman named Park Sumi," said. "She was 34 years old. She had a crew of 48 humans under her command. When she saw the situation, she made a decision." The screen showed a recording from inside the Morning Light's bridge. A woman sat in the captain's chair. She had short black hair and serious eyes. Her uniform was neat and pressed. This was Captain Sumi. "All hands," Sumi's voice came through the speakers. "This is the captain. We have received a distress signal from a civilian transport ship. There are over 3,000 passengers aboard, including children. The ship is being pulled toward an unstable star. If we do nothing, they will all die." The crew members on the bridge looked at each other with worried faces. "The transport is carrying non-human passengers," Sumi continued. "They are from species that have never shown friendship to humanity. In fact, most of them have actively opposed our membership in the Galaxy Council." In the Great Hall, delegates shifted uncomfortably. They knew what Sumi was talking about. They knew how their species had treated humans. "I will not order anyone to risk their lives," Sumi said on the recording. "This mission is purely voluntary. If you wish to stay behind, I will not judge you, but I am going to help those people, not because they deserve it, not because they will thank us, but because it is the right thing to do, because that is what humans do." The video showed the crew members standing up one by one. Every single person volunteered. Not one stayed behind. Paused the video. She turned to face the council. "Captain Sumi and her crew chose to save aliens who hated them," said. "They chose to risk their own lives for beings who called them weak, primitive, and worthless. That is humanity." She pressed play again. The video continued, showing the morning light flying toward the dying star. In the Great Hall, no one spoke. No one moved. For the first time since the humans had arrived, the council was truly listening. Elder sat back in her seat. Her ancient eyes were fixed on the screen. A single tear rolled down her pale blue cheek. The story was just beginning. The video continued to play on the massive screen. The Great Hall of the Galaxy Council had never been so quiet. 10,000 delegates watched as the small human ship flew toward the dying star. Against the orange flames of the sun, the morning light looked like a tiny insect flying into a fire. Captain stood below the screen, her hands clasped behind her back. Ambassador remained on the speaking platform, watching the faces of the aliens around him. He saw something changing in their eyes. The mockery was fading. Something else was taking its place. On screen, the morning light reached the damaged transport ship Harmony's Dream. The two vessels were now close enough that the camera could capture both. Harmony's Dream was enormous, a slow, heavy ship designed to carry thousands of passengers in comfort. The morning light was barely 1/10 its size. "The transport's hull was breaking apart," narrated. "The gravity from the dying star was pulling it in different directions. Captain Sumi knew they had less than 10 hours before the ship was torn to pieces." The video showed the morning light moving alongside the transport. A docking tube extended from the human ship, connecting the two vessels. The camera angle changed to show the inside of the tube. Human crew members in space suits floated through, entering the transport ship. "The first team entered Harmony's Dream to assess the damage," explained. "They found over 3,000 passengers in a state of panic. The ship's life support systems were failing. Temperatures were rising. Oxygen levels were dropping." The footage showed the inside of the transport. Alien passengers crowded the hallways. Some were crying. Children clung to their parents. An elderly creature with purple skin sat against a wall, too weak to move. The fear on their faces was clear to see. A human crew member appeared in the frame. He was young, maybe 25 years old, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. His name tag read Pilot Minyu. "It is going to be okay," Minyu said to the frightened aliens. His voice was calm and warm. "We are here to help you. Nobody is going to die today." One of the alien children, a small creature with green scales like Delegate, looked up at Minyu with huge eyes. "But you are human," the child said. "My father says humans are bad." Minyu knelt down to the child's level. "Maybe your father is wrong," he said gently. "Humans are not bad. We just want to help. Will you let me help you?" The child hesitated. Then slowly she reached out and took Minyu's hand. In the great hall, watched this scene with an expression that was hard to read. His clawed hands gripped the arms of his seat. He said nothing. The video continued. The human crew members worked quickly through the transport ship. They handed out emergency oxygen masks. They carried the elderly and injured to safer sections. They calmed the panicking passengers with soft words and steady hands. The humans had 48 crew members, said. 3,000 passengers. It should have been impossible, but they found a way. The footage showed Captain Sumi organizing the evacuation. She divided her crew into teams. Some worked on repairing the transport's failing systems. Others began moving passengers to the morning light. The rest created emergency shelters in the most protected parts of the transport. Captain Sumi knew they could not save everyone by moving them to the morning light, explained. The human ship was too small, so she made another decision. The screen showed Sumi talking to her chief engineer, a tall man named. "Can you restart the transport's engine?" Sumi asked. Shook his head. "The main engine is completely destroyed, but maybe I can rig something from our own ship's parts. It would mean taking the morning light apart." "Do it," Sumi said without hesitation. "Our ship does not matter. Those people matter." Stared at her for a moment, then he nodded and got to work. The video showed human engineers taking apart their own ship piece by piece. They removed engine components, power cells, navigation systems, everything they could spare. They carried these parts to the transport and worked through the night to install them. "The humans gave up their only way home," said to the council. "They destroyed their own ship to save aliens they had never met, aliens who hated them." Leaned forward in his seat. His 4 arms were pressed together, his glowing eyes focused on the screen. He had not said a word in several minutes. The video showed time passing. Hours went by in minutes of footage. The dying star grew larger in the background. Its flames reached out toward the ships like hungry fingers. The temperature inside the transport continued to rise. Sweat dripped from human faces. Alien passengers gasped for air. Then came the first disaster. A massive explosion rocked the transport. One of the cargo sections had caught fire from the star's radiation. Emergency alarms screamed through the hallways. Smoke filled the corridors. "The fire spread faster than anyone expected," said. Her voice was tight with emotion. 300 passengers were trapped in the burning section. The video showed humans running toward the fire while aliens ran away. Pilot Minyu led a team of 5 crew members into the smoke. They wore breathing masks, but the heat was intense. Their uniforms began to burn at the edges. One by one, they brought out survivors. Minyu carried 2 alien children under his arms. Another crew member dragged an unconscious elderly creature to safety. They went back into the fire again and again, until every single passenger was rescued. "No humans died in the fire," said, "but several were badly burned. They refused medical treatment until all the alien passengers were cared for first." The footage showed Minyu sitting against a wall, his hands wrapped in bandages. His face was red and blistered from the heat, but he was smiling, watching as the alien children he had saved were reunited with their parents. In the great hall, the silver-skinned alien who had called humans violent and primitive covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook silently. The video continued. The engineers worked faster. The star grew closer. Time was running out. Finally, after 7 hours of desperate work, Chief Engineer made an announcement. "Engine is online," said, his voice exhausted but triumphant. "It is not pretty, but it will work. We can move." The camera showed the transport ship's engines flickering to life. They glowed weakly at first, then stronger. Slowly, painfully, the massive ship began to turn away from the dying star. A cheer rose up from the passengers. Aliens who had been terrified just hours ago were now hugging the human crew members. Differences of species no longer seemed to matter. In that moment, they were all just people who had survived together. But the video was not over. The transport was moving, said, but it was not fast enough. The star's gravity was still pulling them back. They needed more power. The screen showed Captain Sumi standing on the bridge of the transport. Her face was grim. Behind her, a small screen showed what remained of the morning light, just a skeleton of a ship, stripped of almost everything. "There is one more thing we can do," Sumi said. "If we burn the morning light's remaining fuel, we can push the transport further away, but it means destroying our ship completely." Her crew stood around her. They were exhausted, burned, and scared, but not one of them argued. "Do it," said Pilot Minu. "It is just a ship. Those people are more important." The others nodded in agreement. Sumi gave the order. The morning light's last fuel reserves ignited. The small human ship became a torch, pushing the transport away from the star with everything it had. When the fuel was gone, the morning light went silent and dark. It drifted away into space, an empty shell of what it had once been. But the transport was safe. 3,000 lives had been saved. The video ended. The screen went dark. In the great hall of the Galaxy Council, no one spoke. No one moved. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. Then somewhere in the upper seats, someone began to cry. The crying in the upper seats spread like ripples on water. One delegate began to weep, then another, then dozens more. Species that had lived for thousands of years, species that called humans weak and primitive, now sat with tears streaming down their alien faces. Captain stood beneath the dark screen. She had not moved since the video ended. Her eyes were red, but she held her emotions back. There was more to tell. Ambassador stepped forward. His voice was heavy with grief. "The video you just watched showed the rescue," said. "But it did not show what came after. It did not show the true cost of what our people did." He gestured to who pressed another button on the console. The screen lit up again. This time it showed a different scene, a medical bay on a rescue station, white walls and bright lights, human bodies lying on beds. "When help finally arrived 3 days later," continued, "the transport ship and its passengers were safe, but the human crew of the Morning Light were not. The footage showed doctors moving between beds. The patients were human, the same crew members who had saved 3,000 lives, but they looked different now. Thinner, weaker, damaged. The radiation from the dying star had poisoned them," explained. "They had no protection. The transport ship had shielding designed for its alien passengers, but humans have different bodies. What kept the aliens safe did not protect our people." A doctor appeared on screen. She was a young woman with tired eyes and messy hair. Her name tag read Doctor. "Medical report, Day 1, spoke into a recording device. "Of the 48 crew members of the Morning Light, 37 are showing signs of severe radiation poisoning. Symptoms include organ damage, internal bleeding, and cellular breakdown. I am doing everything I can, but we do not have the right equipment or medicines. These are human illnesses. No one in this sector has ever treated them before." The video showed moving from bed to bed. She checked vital signs. She held hands. She whispered comfort to crew members who were in pain. She never stopped, never rested. "Where did the doctor come from?" Council leader asked suddenly. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Was she on the rescue ship?" Shook her head. "Doctor was a crew member of the Morning Light. She was injured too, badly injured, but she refused to rest. She spent every moment caring for her fellow crew members." The footage showed treating Pilot Minu. The young man who had saved so many children was now lying pale and still on a medical bed. His burned hands had healed, but the radiation was destroying him from the inside. "Hey, Doc," Minu said weakly. "How are the kids, the ones I carried out of the fire?" smiled though tears filled her eyes. "They are fine, Minyu. They are all fine. Their parents have been asking about you. They want to thank you." Minyu laughed softly. It turned into a painful cough. "Tell them not to bother. I did not do it for thanks. I did it because it was right." He closed his eyes. His breathing grew shallow. "Minyu died 6 hours later," said to the council. "He was 26 years old. He had a mother and father on Earth who will never see him again. He had a younger sister who looked up to him. He had dreams of exploring the galaxy and meeting new species. All of that ended because he chose to save alien children who did not even know his name." In the Great Hall, delegates lowered their heads in shame. The mockery from earlier seemed like a distant nightmare now. How could they have laughed at these people? The video continued. More crew members passed away. The ship's cook, a cheerful man named who had made sure every rescued passenger had hot food. The navigator, a quiet woman named who had calculated the impossible course that saved them all. The chief engineer who had torn apart his own ship with his bare hands. One by one, their lights went out. Doctor kept working. She slept only minutes at a time. She tried every treatment she could think of. She begged the rescue station for help, for medicine, for anything that might save her friends. The station's alien doctors did what they could, but was right, they had never treated human illnesses before. Human biology was strange to them. Human medicine was foreign. They watched helplessly as humans died around them. "Medical report day 3's voice came from the screen. She looked terrible now. Her skin was pale, her hands shook as she held the recording device. "Crew losses now stand at 23. I have done everything I can. I have tried everything I know. It is not enough. I am not enough." She paused. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I am also dying," she continued quietly. "The radiation has damaged my heart. I have maybe one more day. I have written letters to the families of everyone we lost. I have documented every death with proper records. I have done my duty." She looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were tired but clear. "I want the council to know something," said. "We knew the risks when we started this mission. We knew the radiation might kill us. We did it anyway. Not because we wanted to die. Not because we wanted to be heroes. We did it because 3,000 people needed help, and we were the only ones who could give it." She took a shaky breath. "Some of those people hated us. Some of them insulted us and looked down on us. It did not matter. A life is a life. Pain is pain. Fear is fear. When you strip away the scales and the skin and the extra arms, we are all just beings who want to live. We are all just beings who deserve a chance." Smiled weakly. "That is what humans believe. That is who we are. Maybe someday the galaxy will understand." The recording stopped. The screen showed a final image. Doctor's medical badge, placed carefully on a pillow beside an empty bed. "Doctor died 7 hours after making that recording," said. His voice broke slightly. "She was the last survivor of the medical crisis. She could have rested. She could have saved her strength for herself. Instead, she spent her final hours caring for others, just as she had spent her entire life." The great hall was filled with the sound of weeping. Delegates who had laughed at humans were now sobbing openly. Even the massive warrior had tears running down his face, disappearing into his thick hide. Captain stepped forward again. "In total," she said, 31 crew members of the Morning Light died from radiation poisoning. 17 survived, though many will never fully recover. Captain Park Sumi is one of the survivors. She carries the guilt of those deaths with her every day. She believes she should have done more." Paused. Her composure finally cracked, and a single tear escaped down her cheek. "But here is what the survivors want you to know," continued. "They do not regret anything. If they could go back in time, they would make the same choice. They would save those passengers again, because that is what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We sacrifice for strangers. We give everything we have, not for glory or reward, but because it is right." She turned to face directly. You asked us to prove our worth, said. You asked us to show you something special about humanity. There it is. 31 humans died to save 3,000 aliens who despised them. That is our answer. The hall fell silent once more. The weight of what they had witnessed pressed down on every delegate. Elder rose slowly from her seat. Her ancient eyes were wet with tears. When she spoke, her voice trembled with emotion. I have lived for 10,000 years, she said. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed the birth of stars and the death of worlds, but I have never seen anything like what these humans have done. She turned to look at her fellow delegates. We called them weak. We called them primitive. We were wrong. We were so terribly wrong. She bowed her head in shame. Around her, thousands of delegates did the same. The silence in the great hall was unlike anything had ever experienced. It was not the cold, mocking silence from before. This was something different. This was the silence of shame, the silence of understanding, the silence of 10,000 beings suddenly realizing how wrong they had been. Council leader sat motionless in his high seat. His 4 arms hung limply at his sides. His glowing blue eyes stared at the dark screen where the video had played. He looked smaller somehow, as if something inside him had broken. For a long moment, no one moved. The weight of what they had witnessed pressed down on the entire assembly like a heavy blanket. Delegates who had thrown objects at the humans now could not meet their eyes. Species who had called humans primitive sat with bowed heads, lost in thoughts they could not express. Then stood up. The green-scaled delegate who had mocked humans first moved slowly down from his seat. His clawed feet made no sound as he walked toward the center of the hall. Every eye in the room followed him. Stopped in front of Ambassador. For a moment, the two simply looked at each other. Did not know what to expect. He prepared himself for more insults, more cruelty. Instead, did something no one had ever seen a member of his species do to a human. He knelt. The delegate of one of the oldest species in the galaxy knelt before a human ambassador. He lowered his head until it nearly touched the floor. My daughter was on that ship, said. His voice was broken, barely a whisper. The child with the green scales in the video, the one your pilot saved from the fire, that was my daughter. Felt his heart stop. I sent her to visit her grandmother on the colonies, continued. When the ship disappeared, I thought she was dead. I mourned her for weeks. Then she came home, and she told me about the humans who saved her. She told me about the young man named Minyu who carried her out of the flames. Looked up, tears streamed down his scaled face. I called your species weak. I called you worthless. And while I was saying those things, a human I never met was dying so my daughter could live. His voice cracked with emotion. I am sorry. I am so deeply sorry. I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I am asking for it anyway. Stared at the kneeling delegate. He thought about all the insults he had endured. He thought about the laughter and the mockery. He thought about his 15 years of work, dismissed in minutes by beings who did not even know him. Then he thought about Pilot Minyu. He thought about Doctor. He thought about all 31 crew members who had given their lives for strangers. Reached down and gently helped to his feet. Minyu did not save your daughter to make you feel guilty, said softly. He saved her because she was scared and needed help. That was all that mattered to him. Nodded, unable to speak. If you want to honor his memory, continued, then live well, love your daughter, and maybe someday help someone who needs it, even if they are different from you. Wiped his eyes with a clawed hand. I will, he promised. I swear it. One by one, other delegates began to move. The silver-skinned alien came forward next. She approached Captain with slow, careful steps. I said terrible things about your people, admitted. I called you violent and dirty and primitive. I was blind. I was so blind. Nodded slowly. You were, she agreed. But blindness can be cured. The question is what you do now that you can see. Bowed her head. I want to help, I want to make things right, please tell me how. Looked at her for a long moment. Then she gestured toward the screen where the video had played. There are 17 survivors from the morning light, said. Most of them are still recovering. They need medical care that only the best alien doctors can provide. If you truly want to help, then heal them. His eyes widened. My species has some of the finest medical facilities in the galaxy. I will open every door. I will provide anything they need. It is the least I can do. She bowed deeply and hurried away, already speaking into a communication device. The hall began to fill with movement and voices. Delegates who had been enemies of humanity were now offering help. Ships, medicine, technology, resources, they poured in from every direction. The mockery had transformed into something else entirely. But kept his eyes on Council Leader. The skinned alien had not moved from his seat. He sat alone in the highest position, watching everything unfold below him. His expression was unreadable. Finally, after what felt like hours, rose. The hall fell silent once more as he descended the steps toward the center platform. His 4 arms swung slowly at his sides. His footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. He stopped directly in front of and, for a long moment, he simply looked at them. Then he spoke. I have led this council for 300 years, said. In that time I have made many decisions. Some were wise, some were foolish. But none was as wrong as the vote we held today. He turned to face the assembly. I was wrong, declared. His voice carried to every corner of the hall. We were all wrong. We judged humanity by their bodies and their technology. We never thought to judge them by their hearts. He looked back at. Your people sacrificed everything for beings who gave them nothing but hatred. Your people died so that strangers could live. In 300 years, I have never seen any species do what humans did on that day. Paused. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. I called your species unworthy, but the truth is, we are the ones who are unworthy. We are the ones who failed the test, and for that I am truly sorry. He lowered his head in a deep bow. Behind him, every delegate in the hall did the same. 10,000 aliens bowed to 12 humans. The moment stretched out, heavy and meaningful. Then spoke. Council Leader, he said calmly, we did not come here for apologies. We did not show this video for revenge or to embarrass the council. We showed it because you asked us to prove our worth. He stepped forward, his voice steady and clear. But here is the truth. We never needed your approval. We never needed your membership. We came here because we hoped to build friendships and share knowledge and grow together. If you do not want that, we will leave and build our future alone. Raised his head, and if we do want that. Smiled for the first time since entering the hall. Then we start fresh, he said. No more insults, no more mockery. We talk as equals, we work as partners, and maybe over time we become something more. Stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, a smile spread across his face. Ambassador, he said, on behalf of the Galaxy Council, I would like to formally invite humanity to become a full member of this assembly. Not because you proved your worth, but because we finally opened our eyes to see what was there all along. The hall erupted in applause. Delegates cheered and stamped their feet and waved their appendages in celebration. The sound washed over like a warm wave. Captain stepped up beside him. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. We did it, she whispered. Shook his head slowly. No, he said, looking up at the screen where the video had played. They did it, Minyu, Sumi, all of them. They showed the galaxy who we are. He touched his heart, thinking of the 31 humans who would never see this moment. We just made sure their story was heard. The celebration continued around them. Aliens who had been enemies were now friends. A new chapter in galactic history was beginning. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a small empty ship drifted silently among the stars, the morning light. forever standing as a monument to human sacrifice. Its crew was gone, but their light still shone.